What if the thing women feel first isn't your age? What if it isn't your salary, your status, or the silver in your hair? What if the most magnetic thing about an older man is something you can't post, can't flex, and can't fake for more than 5 minutes? Because there's a specific tell women notice fast. Not in what you say, in what you need. And if you're honest, you felt this from the other side too. When someone's presence is calm, but their eyes are asking for something, approval, validation, control, a reaction, that's the difference. Some men walk into a room like they're here to take. Others walk in like they're already complete, and the room can either join them or not. Today, we're going into 3 unusual stoic traits that secretly make older men powerfully attractive. The kind of quiet pull that doesn't beg for attention. And yes, this wasn't invented on podcasts. This was forged in the minds of Roman emperors and Stoic philosophers almost 2,000 years ago. But listen carefully. These traits aren't dating tips. They're identity shifts. And the third one is the line between men who merely age and men who actually mature. So let's get straight to it. Trait number 1, cultivated indifference. Now, don't confuse this with being cold. Cold is avoidance. Indifference is mastery. Anyone can be distant. That's easy. But cultivated indifference is rare because it requires something most men don't develop: the ability to remain steady while life tries to shake you. Here's how it plays out. A younger man's flight gets canceled. His plans collapse. He gets criticized at work. He feels disrespected in public. And you can see the storm inside him. He reacts. He vents. He gets visibly stressed. He turns sharp, defensive, performative, or needy. Not because he's weak, because he's living with a hidden rule. If the outside goes wrong, I go wrong. But the stoic-minded man operates with a different rule. He knows the outside world is unstable by default, so he builds his stability somewhere else. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control. Focus only on what you can control: your actions, your thoughts, your character. Everything else is external. And when you truly internalize that, something changes in your presence. You become a harbor, not a man who doesn't feel, a man who doesn't leak. And women feel that immediately, even if they can't explain it. Because here's the psychological truth. Anxiety is contagious. Composure is contagious too. In a world overflowing with drama and nervous systems on fire, a man who stays calm becomes an anchor. Not because he's trying to be impressive, because he doesn't outsource his peace. The Stoics called this apatheia, not apathy, not numbness, freedom from emotional disturbance. And that's the first open loop you need to hold. Most men think attraction is about intensity, but sometimes the most addictive thing is a man who doesn't spike your nervous system, a man who doesn't create chaos just to feel alive. That's why cultivated indifference is magnetic. He's the rock, not the leaf in the wind. Now here's the twist, because if you stop here, you'll misunderstand the whole trait. Cultivated indifference isn't just about staying calm when life hits you. It's about what happens when people try to move you, when someone tests you, when a woman pulls back, when the room doesn't validate you. Does your mood follow them or lead itself? That's where the attraction really lives. And it brings us into the second trait, the one that instantly separates men who talk to be seen from men who speak because it matters. Trait number 2, the power of deliberate silence. Listen carefully. Younger men often feel the need to fill every silence. Not because they're stupid, because they're trying to manage an invisible fear. If I stop talking, I stop mattering. So they talk to impress. They talk to prove worth. They talk to show how much they know. And the tragedy is, most of them don't even realize they're auditioning. But the stoic-minded older man understands something that changes everything. True power doesn't shout. It listens. He isn't silent because he has nothing to say. He's silent because he's observing, understanding, and processing. And when he does speak, his words have weight. Not dramatic weight, not mysterious alpha weight. Real weight, because they're chosen with purpose, not thrown around carelessly. Seneca said, "Speech is the mirror of the soul." And you can feel this in people. Some men speak like they're trying to cover a wound. Other men speak like they're revealing a decision. A man comfortable in silence shows his inner world is calm, measured, deep. He isn't seeking validation by dominating the conversation. His validation comes from within. And here's why this is so attractive, psychologically. Deliberate silence makes people lean in, because the human brain is trained to chase what isn't spilled out freely. When you don't over-explain yourself, you communicate self-trust. When you don't rush to fill space, you communicate self-control. And self-control is one of the most persuasive signals of safety. But I'm not going to give you the full conclusion yet, because there's a darker layer here. Silence isn't just attractive because it's calm. It's attractive because it filters out the men who are desperate to be perceived. And that brings us to the third trait, the one that truly separates men from boys. Because the ultimate magnetism isn't perfection. It's what you do with the parts of your life that didn't go the way you planned. If this hit a nerve, don't brush it off. That's data. Say it out loud. There's a version of you that thinks your past is a liability. The divorce, the business that didn't work, the friendship you lost, the years you can't get back. The moment you realized you weren't in control the way you thought you were. And if you're like most men, especially men who've learned to survive by staying composed, your instinct is to keep those chapters sealed. Not because you're ashamed, because you learned a dangerous rule early. If they see where I bled, they'll know where to aim. So you clean it up. You talk about the highlights. You keep it polished. And then you wonder why, even when you look stable, people don't fully relax around you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A man who hides his scars doesn't come across as strong. He comes across as managed. And managed men always feel like they're one bad moment away from cracking. That's why trait number 3 is the one that truly separates the men from the boys. Trait number 3, embracing scars. This is the game changer, because every man has scars, failures in business, heartbreaking relationships, moments of deep loss, times you disappointed yourself, times you had to rebuild from zero, emotionally, financially, spiritually. Society tells men to hide these things, to move on, to man up. To act like pain is a private glitch you should fix quietly and never mention again. But the truly attractive older man does the opposite. He doesn't advertise his scars like a badge. He doesn't perform vulnerability for attention. He simply isn't afraid of what happened to him. And that's a different kind of power. Because a scar isn't proof you were damaged. It's proof you were hit, and you didn't disappear. Now, this is where most men misread what women are drawn to. They think women want perfection. No. Women want emotional consequence handled well. They want to feel that if life gets real, if things get messy, unpredictable, painful, you won't turn cold. You won't spiral. You won't become someone they have to manage. So when an older man can acknowledge his past without bitterness, without shame, without dramatizing it, his entire presence changes. He stops feeling like a fragile statue that can't be touched. He feels like a human being who has been tested and passed. Stoicism has a name for this: amor fati, a love of one's fate. Not tolerating your past, not accepting it through clenched teeth, loving it because it made you. That doesn't mean celebrating pain. It means refusing to be at war with reality. And the moment you stop being at war with your own history, you stop giving off the energy of a man trying to outrun himself. That's what people feel. A man who embraces his scars doesn't need to prove anything, because he already survived his own judgment. And here's the second perspective shift, the one most men don't expect. A lot of men believe strength is never being hurt. But strength is being hurt, and not becoming dangerous because of it. Not becoming resentful, not becoming entitled, not becoming reactive, not becoming manipulative. A scar held with maturity becomes empathy. A scar held with denial becomes bitterness. And bitterness has a smell. People may not say it, but they step back. Because bitterness turns connection into a courtroom. every woman becomes a symbol. Every conversation becomes a test. Every flirt becomes a power struggle. That's not attraction. That's unresolved pain trying to get paid back. The Stoic man refuses that. He turns the past into fuel, not poison. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that sounds simple until you live it. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That line is not a quote for posters. It's a psychological operating system. It means your setbacks aren't baggage. They're instruction. Your heartbreaks aren't weaknesses. They're what taught you how not to ruin something good when it finally arrives. Your failures aren't proof you're behind. They're proof you have range. And that's why embracing scars is magnetic. A man who isn't afraid of his past is a man who isn't afraid of the future. He doesn't need life to be perfect to stay steady. He doesn't need constant reassurance to stay present. He's already met darkness, inside himself, inside the world, and he didn't turn into a monster. He turned into someone calmer. And calm built from experience is the most persuasive kind. Now, hold this open loop with me, because we're almost at the point where everything locks together. Cultivated indifference is not emotional numbness. Deliberate silence is not social avoidance. Embracing scars is not weakness. All three are forms of self-command. They tell the same story. This man doesn't need the world to behave for him to remain solid. And if you've ever felt like you were trying to be confident, trying to be attractive, trying to be respected, this is why it felt exhausting. Because you were trying to manufacture what Stoicism teaches you to become. If you've made it this far, you're probably not the kind of man who wants to learn lines. You're the kind of man who wants to move differently. Because the truth is, women don't fall for traits the way men imagine. They don't sit there ranking you like a resume. They read something faster. They read your inner posture. And the three Stoic traits we've been talking about, cultivated indifference, deliberate silence, embracing scars, are not separate tricks. They're three signals of one identity, a man who is not emotionally for sale. That's the quiet power. Now here's the first reframe that usually flips a man's mind. Most men think magnetism is about standing out. But Stoic magnetism is about not needing to stand out. It's the absence of grasping, the absence of performance, the absence of that subtle pleading energy that says, "Please see me as enough." And the moment that disappears, you don't just become calmer. You become harder to manipulate, harder to shake, harder to read as needy. That's what people call presence. Cultivated indifference means life doesn't get to yank your nervous system around. So when plans fall apart, when people misread you, when something doesn't go your way, you don't leak frustration into the room. Not because you're suppressing it, because you've already made your decision. I will handle what's mine. I won't wrestle what isn't. That single decision changes how a woman experiences you. Because she isn't bracing for your mood, she can relax. And relaxation is where attraction actually has room to exist. But here's the open loop most men miss. Indifference is not the calm you show. It's the calm you have when nobody is watching. That's why it's so rare. Now add deliberate silence. Most men talk to manage perception.